Welcome back, dear viewers. Today's story is one of betrayal, courage, and ultimate redemption. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the vow and the verdict. 10 years ago, in a tiny apartment in South San Jose, Olivia Bennett and Nathan Cole began a journey no one could have predicted would take them to the top of the tech world. The apartment was barely 600 square feet, cluttered with cables, sketchboards, and stacks of instant noodle boxes next to buzzing computers. But to them, it was a castle, the birthplace of Titanet. Olivia, a fresh MBA graduate from Stanford, was sharp, strategic, and market-savvy. Nathan, a computer engineering graduate, was brilliant but impulsive, obsessed with the idea of creating an AI platform that could learn consumer habits to personalize online shopping experiences. "We're going to build something that'll make Amazon look twice," Nathan said one night, eyes glowing as he typed furiously on his keyboard. Olivia didn't laugh. She looked at him, then opened a spreadsheet to cut another $50 from the car rental budget to invest in a backup server. They survived on savings, a loan from Olivia's parents, and, at times, sheer blind faith. The early days were a string of sleepless nights. They took turns napping on the sofa. One night, Olivia woke from a nightmare to find Nathan sitting in the dark, eyes bloodshot from hours of debugging a single stubborn line of code. "You can give up," she once told him, "but I won't." It was Olivia who pitched to angel investors in their second year. Nathan had worried she'd be dismissed for not having a technical background. But the moment she stepped onto the stage, confident and incisive, the room fell silent. They secured their first funding round, $500,000. With that, Titanet moved from their apartment to a small downtown LA office. They hired 2 engineers, an intern, and, most importantly, they got married. A modest backyard ceremony at Olivia's parents' home with just 20 close friends. She wore a simple white dress and did her own hair. Nathan wore a $150 ring she ordered online. "We're not getting married for money, right?" Nathan whispered that night. "No," Olivia smiled. "I'm marrying you because I believe in you. In us." 3 years later, Titanet was valued at $100 million after their Series B round. Nathan became a Forbes-featured tech visionary, and Olivia, now pregnant with her first child, stepped back from her COO role to become a strategic advisor, still deeply involved but from the background. She didn't regret it. "You lead the charge. I'll be the foundation," she told Nathan as baby Ethan cried for the first time in the delivery room. They bought a house in the Beverly Hills suburbs, complete with a garden, a pool, and a sunlit reading room overlooking the valley. Life seemed perfect. Olivia cared for their children, Ethan and, later, Lily, while Nathan ran Titanet with fierce ambition. At first, Nathan still came home early. He took the kids to the park, played basketball with Ethan. But over time, something in his eyes dimmed when he looked at Olivia. Patience faded. Silence grew. Olivia didn't blame him. She thought he was stressed. She thought she needed to help more by keeping the home steady. She had always done that, stayed quiet so others could shine. Then, one March day, as Titanet prepared to expand into the Asian market, Nathan handed Olivia a business card. "Chloe Myers. She's a rising influencer. Could help with a new campaign," he said casually. Olivia looked at the photo, a young woman with a dazzling smile and perfect lashes. She agreed to meet her. They met at a high-end cafe in Santa Monica. Chloe showed up in a pristine white dress, beaming like a social media star. "Olivia," she exclaimed, embracing her. "I've followed you for years. You're my role model." Olivia, a bit surprised, smiled. She wasn't used to such effusive admiration, but didn't want to seem cold. Chloe talked nonstop about her failed startup, her admiration for Olivia, and how working with you is a dream come true. A week later, Chloe started appearing at the Titanet office. A month later, she was in high-level meetings. Within 3 months, Olivia saw her in their kitchen, making tea for Nathan, playing Lego with Ethan, coloring with Lily. "She's really nice," Ethan said. "Chloe said she'll take me to Disneyland if you say yes." Lily chimed in. Olivia felt uneasy but kept smiling. Chloe was clearly the kind of woman kids adored. She didn't overstep, but was so smooth, so charming, it was hard to object to anything. She wasn't rushing. She was infiltrating into every corner of the family, as if Olivia had invited her in. One evening, after a charity gala, Olivia returned home late to find Nathan and Chloe watching TV. Ethan had fallen asleep on Chloe's lap. "You're home," Nathan said without looking up. Chloe glanced over with a sweet smile. "Hi, Olivia. You must be tired. I reheated the soup you made last night. It's delicious." Olivia said nothing. She stared at the scene, her son resting in a stranger's arms, a woman she had trusted. Her husband, smiling unbothered. And in that moment, Olivia realized she was slowly disappearing from her own life. Chloe Myers became a fixture in Olivia's life almost overnight, like ivy climbing a wall, slow, silent, and impossible to stop once rooted. At first, it seemed harmless. Chloe's presence around the house was chalked up to the campaign she was working on with Titanette. She'd bring pastries to meetings, help set up events, and occasionally drop by their home on weekends with excuses like delivering the revised media deck or needing a quick signature. Olivia thought nothing of it. She appreciated dedication. And if Chloe played with Ethan and Lily while Nathan was busy, all the better. But soon, Olivia noticed something different. Subtle shifts. Chloe no longer knocked before entering the house. She knew the garage code. The kids began asking for her more often than they asked for Olivia. One evening, Ethan refused to eat unless Chloe's mac and cheese was served. It felt as if she were no longer just a guest, but a shadow Olivia couldn't escape. At a Titanette gala, Chloe stood beside Nathan throughout the night, introducing him to influencers and investors as if she were his publicist, or worse, his partner. Olivia, though still technically his wife and Titanette's co-founder, was treated more like a relic, polite nods, vague smiles, and hushed whispers behind her back. "You're amazing," Chloe gushed to Olivia that night, looping her arm through hers. "Nathan says you practically built Titanette. I tell everyone you're the reason we're here today." Olivia smiled thinly, her stomach tight. Chloe had an uncanny way of giving compliments that sounded like eulogies. Back at home, the emotional distance grew. Nathan stopped sharing board reports with her. Decisions were made without her input. Meetings were rescheduled to times when she couldn't attend due to Lily's school runs or Ethan's therapy sessions. One evening, while folding laundry, Olivia came across a crumpled receipt in Nathan's blazer. 2 glasses of wine, 1 filet mignon, 1 lobster tail, at a rooftop restaurant she'd never heard of. A place where they once talked about celebrating Titanette's first million-user milestone, but never did. She didn't confront him. Not yet. She needed more. A week later, while Nathan was at a late meeting, Olivia decided to take Lily to her piano class and swung by the office to drop off a forgotten backpack. What she didn't expect was to see Chloe sitting at Nathan's desk, her legs crossed confidently, Nathan standing behind her, arms resting on her chair. They didn't see her at first. She watched for several seconds, frozen in place. Chloe laughed at something Nathan said. He reached down to brush something from her cheek. That night, Olivia didn't sleep. The next morning, she called Emily, her younger sister, a calm, observant university professor who never liked Nathan from the start. "I need you to be honest," Olivia said. "You've seen Chloe. Do you think she's involved?" There was a long pause. "Liv," Emily said carefully, "I think she's already where she wants to be, and Nathan's letting her." Olivia didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she turned inward, methodical like she had always been. She started documenting everything: time logs, account statements, schedules, asset reports. She noticed suspicious transfers. Nathan creating new accounts under shell entities, moving stock options, shifting Titanette voting rights into his name. He was preparing for something. A financial clean break. Possibly a divorce. And Chloe? She was the scalpel, precise, smiling, and deadly. Olivia reached out to Marcus Lane, her longtime friend and Titanette's former legal counsel. He'd left the company 2 years prior over creative differences with Nathan, but he had always respected Olivia's integrity. I need help, she told him. Off the record. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. You've always been the soul of that company. Whatever he's trying to take, we'll make sure he pays. Meanwhile, Chloe doubled down on her role as best friend. She threw Lily a surprise birthday party without asking Olivia. She started taking Ethan to soccer practice, showing up in matching jerseys. Olivia watched from the sidelines, smiling for the cameras, heart breaking beneath her coat. Nathan had become colder, offering her robotic updates on the kids, dismissing her input during rare strategy talks, and disappearing for hours with vague explanations. Olivia knew the plan. Discredit her, isolate her from the board, strip her influence, then cut her loose with a severance and a pat on the back. He thought she wouldn't fight back. He thought she'd fade away quietly, grateful for the years she had. He was wrong. One night, Olivia was sitting on the edge of her bed, flipping through an old photo album, one from the early Titanette days, when Emily burst into the room, phone in hand. "You need to see this," she said, breathless. It was a video, filmed at a secluded resort in Napa Valley, leaked by an anonymous source. Nathan and Chloe, wrapped in white robes, sharing champagne, kissing. Olivia stared at the screen, unmoving. After a long silence, she looked up. "I want them to regret underestimating me." Emily nodded. "Then let's start writing the ending." The days that followed were a delicate balancing act. Olivia played the part of the calm wife, the doting mother, the gracious co-founder, while secretly orchestrating a campaign that would shake everything Nathan and Chloe had built together. She didn't lash out. She didn't file for divorce. She knew better than to act out of anger. Because now, this wasn't just about heartbreak. It was war. With Marcus's help, Olivia began reviewing Titanette's bylaws and shareholder agreements. She discovered that while Nathan had indeed shifted several blocks of shares into a trust under his name, he had made a critical mistake. He underestimated the loyalty of the early investors, many of whom had only signed on because Olivia was part of the founding team. "If we move quickly," Marcus told her, pointing to the documents spread across her kitchen table, "we can gather proxy votes and trigger a special board review. You'd need over 50% to override Nathan's authority." Olivia nodded. "Can we do it before?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Before what?" "Before the engagement announcement," she meant to say, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she whispered, "Before he takes everything." Marcus looked her in the eye. "You're not losing anything. You're taking it back." At home, the tension thickened. One night, Ethan knocked on her door, holding a handmade card. "We made cookies with Chloe today. She says you're too busy to bake like you used to." Olivia crouched down, gently placing a hand on her son's cheek. "I'll always have time for you, sweetheart. Don't let anyone tell you different." But the seeds had been planted. Chloe's presence in the children's lives had grown beyond friendly. She attended Lily's school recital, cheering louder than Olivia. She organized a family picnic and posed for photos with the kids, while Nathan conveniently forgot to invite Olivia. Even the family dog, Max, began to follow Chloe more than Olivia. It was like watching her own life, her family, her role, her identity being quietly recast while she was still in the room. The final straw came on a Tuesday evening. Olivia returned from a silent investor meeting with Marcus and found Chloe in the living room wearing one of her silk robes. Yes, hers, lounging with Nathan while watching a movie with Ethan and Lily. Chloe looked up casually, no trace of embarrassment. "Oh, sorry, Olivia. I got cold after swimming with the kids and borrowed this. Hope you don't mind." Nathan didn't even blink. "It's just a robe." Olivia didn't respond. She walked upstairs, closed her bedroom door, locked it. She stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her skin was pale, her eyes tired. This was not the woman who once stood before cameras and pitched Titanette to top venture capitalists. This was not the girl who believed in building empires from nothing. This was a woman who'd been pushed aside. That night, she opened her laptop and composed an email to her oldest allies, investors, ex-employees, engineers she had trained, and women she had mentored. The subject line was simple: "I need your trust one more time." Within 48 hours, she had over 30 responses, most saying the same thing: "We always knew it was you." The dominoes began to fall. Meanwhile, social media was ablaze with speculation. Photos of Nathan and Chloe on private getaways, at startup mixers, even shopping for rings. They hadn't made it official yet, but the gossip columns were calling Chloe Silicon Valley's Cinderella. One particularly viral post read, "Olivia Bennet disappeared, and Chloe Myers replaced her overnight. But at least the new queen looks good in heels." Emily slammed her phone down. "They're mocking you." But Olivia only smiled. "Let them. The bigger the stage, the louder the fall." 3 days later, Marcus called with news. "We're ready. You have enough proxy votes to call a special board session. If you want to unseat Nathan as CEO, the timing has to be theatrical." Olivia tilted her head. "Theatrical?" Marcus grinned. "Let's just say Chloe's been leaking the engagement party invitation to every influencer in LA. Why not use it to our advantage?" Olivia said nothing for a moment. Then, slowly, a plan began to form. She went to her closet and pulled out a garment bag she hadn't touched in years. A custom gown from a designer friend she helped back when Titanette first launched. Midnight black, silk crepe, with a subtle shimmer under the light. Understated. Elegant. Power in fabric form. It still fit. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw something new. Not the grieving wife. Not the forgotten founder. But a storm waiting to be unleashed. In the days leading up to the engagement party, Chloe grew bolder. She dropped passive-aggressive remarks at dinner. Claimed Olivia wasn't involved in Titanette anymore. Suggested the kids stay with her and Nathan full-time so Olivia could focus on self-care. Nathan? He was barely present. He walked through rooms without seeing her, speaking only when necessary, and even then with the disinterest of a stranger. Olivia let them believe they had won. She played the part of the discarded, out-of-touch ex. She gave them all the rope they needed. The night before the engagement party, she kissed Lily and Ethan goodnight, tucked them in, and said quietly, "Tomorrow might be a little strange. But always remember, your mother never gave up on anything." Then she closed their doors, went to her study, and waited for midnight. When the clock struck 12, she clicked send. To the board, to the press, to the future. The engagement party was scheduled for Saturday night at the Glass House Estate, a sprawling hilltop venue overlooking the Pacific. It was known for celebrity weddings and billion-dollar fundraisers. Now, it was about to host a scandal that would break the internet. Chloe had been counting down the days on social media. "Something magical is coming," she posted with photos of rose arrangements and diamond cake toppers. Influencers, journalists, tech executives, everyone wanted in. Nathan was unusually calm the morning of the event. He wore a navy, custom-tailored tux, adjusted his gold cufflinks, and admired himself in the mirror like a man at the peak of his power. To him, Olivia was a closed chapter, a footnote in his memoir. "I won't be home late," he said flatly as he left. Olivia simply nodded. She waited until the front gate cameras showed Nathan's car disappearing down the driveway. Then she moved. Emily was already at the estate's staff entrance, dressed as catering crew, carrying the encrypted hard drive. Marcus was stationed in the parking lot with 2 members of his legal team. Every document, every video, every contract Olivia had quietly compiled over the last month was stored and scheduled for synchronized release, pending one trigger. Her entrance. Inside the venue, Chloe glowed like a chandelier. She wore a glittering silver dress, hair in soft waves, lips a dramatic crimson. Guests gasped, cameras flashed, hashtags trended. On stage, a giant C+ and monogram glowed behind a champagne tower. The room was a constellation of LA's most powerful names: VCs, tech bloggers, fashion icons, even 2 senators. "Thank you all for coming," Chloe cooed into the microphone. "Tonight isn't just about love. It's about building the future together." Applause. Laughter. Clinking of glasses. Then the main doors opened. Silence. Olivia Bennet walked in slowly, wearing the midnight black gown. Her heels clicked sharply on the marble floor. Hair swept into a low chignon. No jewelry, just fire in her eyes. The crowd parted like the sea. Nathan's glass slipped from his hand, shattering. "Olivia," he croaked. Chloe's smile froze, faltered. "You weren't invited." "I know," Olivia replied calmly. "But this is my company, my name, and my moment. She walked past the crowd, climbed the steps to the stage, took the microphone from the startled DJ, and turned to face the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, voice steady, clear, "I'd like to thank you for joining us on such a special evening. You've all been summoned here under the illusion of a love story." She turned to Nathan. "But what you're actually witnessing is an exit, his." The screens behind her flickered. Video clips began to play. Nathan and Chloe in compromising situations, whispering in dark corners of the Titanette office, kissing in hotel lobbies, discussing strategies to oust Olivia. A recording played. Chloe's voice saying, "Once I'm in with the board, we'll phase her out completely. She's just a name now." The crowd gasped. Phones came out. Journalists began scribbling. Nathan stepped forward, reaching for the microphone. "Olivia, stop." She cut him off. "Save it. I've already filed the board motion. Effective immediately, the majority shareholders have voted to remove you as CEO of Titanette. You are being relieved of all executive duties pending investigation." Marcus entered the room at that exact moment, documents in hand. He handed them to Nathan, publicly, visibly, like a scene from a courtroom drama. "Signed by 53% of the voting bloc," Marcus announced. "Filed this morning. The board is already convened." Chloe's face was ashen. "You can't do this." "I just did," Olivia replied. "And as for you, Ms. Myers, your influencer contracts, your PR deals, your consulting agreements, all canceled. Effective immediately." The screens now showed Chloe's emails, manipulating brand pitches, falsifying credentials, asking for kickbacks. Security guards approached the stage discreetly. Chloe's hands trembled. "This is slander," she hissed. "No," Olivia said, stepping closer. "This is the truth. And I have receipts." The room was chaos. Guests murmured, phones buzzed, some even streamed live. But Olivia didn't flinch. She stood in the center of it all, as composed as a queen reclaiming her throne. She turned back to the microphone. 10 years ago, I helped build Titanette from nothing. I raised our children, sacrificed my role, supported the man I believed in. And he repaid me with betrayal." She paused, letting the silence settle. "So tonight, I'm not just taking back my company. I'm taking back my name, my dignity, and my future." As she stepped down from the stage, the crowd parted again. She didn't look back. Behind her, Nathan stood stunned, Chloe in tears, the guests in disbelief. Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall. Olivia lifted her face to the sky. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The morning after the engagement party felt like waking up after an earthquake. The headlines were merciless. Billionaire CEO ousted by ex-wife at his own engagement party. Titanette scandal, betrayal, infidelity, and a power play like no other. Olivia Bennett's epic comeback shakes Silicon Valley. The footage from the party had gone viral overnight. Dozens of angles, clips, sound bites. One of the most shared was Olivia's line. "I'm not just taking back my company. I'm taking back my name, my dignity, and my future." Millions watched. Millions cheered. And many, especially women in business, saw in her a symbol of strength they had longed to see. Nathan, meanwhile, had disappeared from public view. Titanette's communications team issued a brief statement. Effective immediately, Nathan Cole has stepped down from all leadership roles. The company remains committed to transparency, innovation, and accountability. He hadn't called, hadn't messaged. Olivia didn't expect him to. Chloe tried to push back. She went live on her social media, claimed the videos were out of context, that she had been framed, that Olivia had used her influence to ruin two people in love. It didn't work. Brands dropped her. Followers unfollowed. A former assistant leaked screenshots of Chloe bragging about taking over Titanette from inside. It was over. The more she screamed, the more invisible she became. At home, Olivia walked through her sunlit kitchen with a cup of tea in hand. The same house she had once felt like a stranger and now felt rightfully hers again. Ethan sat at the breakfast table, scrolling through his tablet. "Mom," she looked up. "Yes, honey. You were on YouTube. Everyone at school said you're awesome." She smiled. "They said that." He nodded. "They said you're a boss." Olivia laughed softly. Well, maybe I am. Lily ran into the room in her unicorn pajamas. Can we have pancakes today? Like the ones you make. That you carried weight. Olivia noticed. She stepped over, kissed her daughter's forehead. Absolutely. Later that day, Emily arrived holding 2 coffees and a manila folder. Press interviews. Legal follow-ups. Oh, and one of the networks wants to option your story for a series, she said, raising an eyebrow. Olivia nearly choked on her tea. A series? Emily smirked. Apparently betrayal and revenge sell. Who knew? Olivia rolled her eyes. I'm not a celebrity. I'm a woman who got tired of being silent. You're a movement now, Emily said quietly. You gave a lot of people permission to fight back. Olivia's gaze drifted to the garden, where the kids were playing. She hadn't done this for fame. She'd done it for freedom. That evening, Olivia stood in the Titanette boardroom once more. But this time at the head of the table. The board members greeted her with genuine warmth. Even those who had once sided with Nathan now nodded respectfully. We've reviewed the transition plan, said one investor. Your reappointment as CEO is unanimously approved. No debates. No resistance. She signed the papers and looked around. I know this company better than anyone, she said, because I built it not just with my mind, but with my soul. Titanette lost its compass. It's time we find it again. Applause. No one said Nathan's name. No one needed to. Back at home, Olivia finally entered the bedroom she had once retreated from night after night, afraid of what she might discover or lose. She opened the closet, pulled out an old box of keepsakes, their wedding photos, baby shoes, letters Nathan had once written her in college. She didn't cry. Instead, she picked up a pen and scribbled on a notepad. Closure is not forgetting. Closure is choosing peace. She folded the note, slid it into the box, and sealed it shut. She would not erase her past, but she would not let it define her future. The next day, Olivia launched a new initiative through Titanette, a fund for women entrepreneurs called Reclaim, dedicated to supporting women whose voices have been silenced in business, tech, or life. The press applauded. The public responded. But for Olivia, the applause wasn't the reward. The reward was waking up to the sound of her children laughing, walking into Titanette without having to prove she belonged, looking in a mirror and recognizing herself again. One morning, a letter arrived. No return address. The handwriting unmistakably Nathan's. I watched it all fall apart. I thought you'd destroy me, but you just stood there, stronger than I ever imagined. You were always better than me. I just didn't see it until it was too late. Nathan. She folded the letter once, then dropped it into the fireplace. Let burn. 2 months had passed since the night of the party, but the tremors were still being felt across the tech world. Titanette had not only survived the scandal, it was thriving. Stock prices had rebounded, investor confidence returned, and the company's brand had become stronger than ever, now built around the narrative of resilience, accountability, and authenticity. And at the center of it all stood Olivia Bennett. She had spent weeks reshaping Titanette's leadership structure, removing the toxic remnants left behind by Nathan's regime. The marketing division was rebuilt. HR policies were overhauled. And most importantly, trust was restored. But beyond the business, something deeper was healing. Something in her spirit that had been bruised and hidden for years. One crisp Friday morning, Olivia arrived at the office early, just as the sun rose behind the Los Angeles skyline. The glass walls of the Titanette headquarters glowed with orange and gold. She stepped into the executive floor, now redesigned with open spaces, art created by women, and quotes carved into the walls. One caught her eye that morning. She remembered who she was, and the game changed. Olivia smiled. She didn't need to remember anymore. She knew. Marcus knocked on her office door, holding a thick binder. We've finalized the terms for Reclaim. You ready to launch? Reclaim, the fund she'd created for women founders, survivors of workplace abuse, mothers who had sacrificed their careers, and women rebuilding from the bottom. She took the binder, flipped through its pages, and signed the last document. Let's give them what I never had, she said. That weekend, Titanette hosted a private summit for women in tech. No influencers, no stage panels, just real stories, honest conversations, and opportunity. Olivia took the stage, not as CEO, but as someone who had lived through collapse and come out standing. My story isn't unique, she said. Too many of us have been made to feel small, unworthy, replaceable. We're taught to apologize for our ambition, to stay silent in the face of betrayal, to keep smiling while being erased. She paused, scanning the room. But here's the truth. Your voice is your greatest asset. And when you reclaim it, the world has no choice but to listen. Standing ovation. After the summit, Olivia sat on a bench outside the venue, watching the sunset with Emily. You did it, Emily said softly. Olivia shook her head. I'm just getting started. You sure you don't want to take a break? Maybe travel, date, sleep for more than 4 hours. Olivia laughed. One day, but not yet. There was a fire in her now, not born from revenge, but from clarity. She wasn't trying to prove herself anymore. She was simply being who she was always meant to be. Back at home, the children had adjusted to the new rhythm. Nathan had reached out once, requesting supervised visits. Olivia agreed, not for him, but for Ethan and Lily. She made it clear. There would be no manipulation, no family reunions, no confusion. Chloe had vanished from public life entirely. Rumor had it she moved to another state, changed her name, and started a podcast about healing from cancel culture. Olivia didn't care. Some stories didn't need sequels. One evening, Ethan came to Olivia with a school project. Write about someone who inspires you. He handed her the paper a week later. At the top, in careful handwriting, my mom. She built a company. She told the truth. She didn't let bad people win. And she always makes pancakes on Saturdays. Olivia read it in silence, tears welling, but not from sadness, from pride. Later that night, she stepped out onto her balcony, a glass of wine in hand. The lights of the city shimmered below. Somewhere out there, someone was still talking about the party, still dissecting the downfall, still debating motives and outcomes. But for Olivia, it was quiet. She didn't need the noise anymore. She had reclaimed her voice, her company, her family, herself. And now, standing in the cool evening breeze, she whispered into the night, I'm still here. 6 months later, Titannet hosted its annual Global Innovation Conference. And for the first time in its history, the event opened not with a keynote from a man in a suit, but with a woman in a black pantsuit and silver heels, Olivia Bennett. The ballroom at the Hilton in downtown Los Angeles was full of press, partners, coders, and creators. But it wasn't the grandeur that made the moment powerful. It was the silence. A respectful, charged quiet as Olivia stepped onto the stage and looked out over the sea of faces. My name is Olivia Bennett, she began. And for a long time, I believed that strength meant being silent. That in order to keep the peace, I had to swallow pain. That success required sacrifice. And that sacrifice meant becoming invisible. She paused, the air heavy. But I was wrong. Silence doesn't keep peace. It only protects the people who broke it. The audience sat riveted. I built Titannet once. I lost it. And now I've built it again, but better. Not alone. Not quietly. But truthfully. Thunderous applause. After the speech, reporters swarmed her for interviews. Investors sought her out. Students asked for photos. But Olivia slipped away to a quiet hallway and leaned against a wall, taking it all in. Marcus found her there. You're a star now, he teased. She smirked. That was never the plan. Maybe not, but suits you. They walked out together, no words needed. Weeks passed, and Titannet continued to soar. Reclaim funded 12 women-led startups. Olivia began mentoring young founders personally. Her days were full, but not overwhelming, because now everything she did had purpose. She moved into a new home with a modest garden and large windows. Nothing like the cold luxury of her past life. Here, there was warmth. Here, she cooked dinner with her children, painted with Lily on Sundays, and read to Ethan every night. One evening, Emily stopped by with a bottle of wine. So, she asked, settling onto the couch, any thoughts of dating again? Olivia raised an eyebrow. Is this a trap? Emily laughed. Just saying. You're brilliant, gorgeous, and back in charge. Someone's going to fall hard. I'm not looking for someone to complete me, Olivia said, pouring wine into their glasses. I'm already whole. Still, life had a funny way of nudging you. At a tech symposium in San Francisco, Olivia was introduced to Daniel Hart, a former robotics engineer turned social entrepreneur. He was tall, kind-eyed, and asked her thoughtful questions, not about her scandal, but about her vision. They talked for hours. No cameras, no scripts, just two people, curious and real. Afterward, he sent her an email. It was refreshing to meet someone who survived the storm and still walks like she owns the sky. Coffee sometime. She didn't respond right away. But 2 days later, she wrote back. Only if it's strong and unsweetened, like me. They didn't rush. Olivia wasn't searching for romance. But in Daniel, she found something unexpected. Peace. He didn't try to save her, fix her, or compete with her. He simply sat beside her in silence and let her be. Their relationship was quiet, respectful, and steady. No grand declarations. No press leaks. Just presence. As the year drew to a close, Olivia hosted a holiday event for Reclaim's first cohort of women founders. It was held in the same venue where Nathan's engagement party had once imploded. She had chosen it intentionally, not out of revenge, but as a symbol. She stood at the front of the room and raised her glass. To all the women who were told they weren't enough. To all the women who were replaced, silenced, or sidelined. And to the ones who refused to disappear. Everyone raised their glasses in return. To us, they echoed. Later that night, Olivia stood alone in the garden terrace, gazing up at the stars. She had weathered betrayal, shame, humiliation, and loss. But she had also rediscovered herself, her strength, her identity, her voice. And now, she was no longer surviving. She was leading. She was loving. She was living. A year later, Tidanet was listed as one of the top 10 companies changing the world. Olivia appeared on the cover of Time, titled, "The Woman Who Reclaimed Everything." Nathan quietly sold the last of his shares and moved overseas. Chloe was never heard from again, but none of that mattered anymore. Because Olivia had stopped measuring her worth by what she'd lost. She now measured it by what she had the courage to build, after everything fell apart. And with every sunrise, every laughter-filled breakfast, every moment of stillness in a world that once demanded her silence, she knew this was her victory, not because she won, but because she refused to be erased.